We all know. There we go. Okay. Apparently, Facebook has, has made a change in how to connect. But that's okay because you're here and I'm here and we're moving along. Let me add today's Tutorial Tuesday, where I teach you how to accomplish a specific marketing task. Today's the Marketers on a Mission, episode number 32. 5 questions to answer before creating your next business card. Hi, I'm Patricia Durgan, the Christian Message Coach, and this is Marketers on a Mission, the live show for every Christian with the idea for a book, a business, an online course, or a ministry. We show you not only the various online tools you'll need to take your message online, but also the secrets and the strategies to use those tools so you can be successful as a marketer on a mission for Christ. So do you have a business card yet? I've had so many through the years, so it's crazy how many I've had. And maybe you too. I come from a business background, so I'm very, very familiar with having business cards. And when I went to ministry, and then later a ministry with a business with a ministry focus, which is what I'm doing right now, a business with a ministry focus. Still, business cards, they're just absolutely necessary. Now, I just realized, unless I get this tech issue fixed, we're not going to be able to. Thank you, Lord. There we are. Thank you, Lord. Isn't he good? It just helps us. He just helps us in small and big ways. Let me share you with my screen with you because I want to get right to the training. When we are doing something new, especially when it's live, and it could be the utmost embarrassing because we're not smooth as silk, that's when we have problems, and that's okay because we just roll with it. We just roll with it. So we're talking today about business cards, creating them, and actually this is going to be a 2-part training, shall I say. This episode and maybe tomorrow's episode will close it out, but we might have a special guest tomorrow. And if we're going to do that, then we definitely want to take this training, the second part of this training, and move it to another day. Let's start here. This is my current business card. This is an image obviously of me, my logo, my tagline, my name, the question an intriguing question I want people to be able to ask to themselves when they look at my business card, my contact information. This is this black outline, this thin black outline is just for demonstration purposes, so it doesn't look like there's no edges to the business card, because there certainly are. Let me check and see if I got any questions yet. So far, we're doing good. Okay. So what does it mean to have a page of business cards? Well, this is what my business card and yours and anybody else's would look like in the environment of a print shop. Let me just check and see if I happen to be, perhaps happen to be online. Because I like talking to you. I don't like talking to myself so much, but I really enjoy talking to you. Oh, yes, here we go. So this is what is called a 10-up layout that a printer would use. See these tiny little hash marks? These are cutting marks. And you see the difference here that there's white space. Obviously, if this line were to come all the way down the page or all the way across the page, you see how there's extra white space? That's intentional. And you want that too. I'm going to show you about that, talk to you about that today. So let's say that you go online or you design your own business cards. I'm going to show you some resources today that are free. You're going to love it. There's one that's brand new that I hadn't realized was out, and it's just superb. Two. So whatever it is that you do, however you design your business cards or have them designed, maybe it's a professional graphic designer that you know from church or community or across the country. Maybe it's Vistaprint or any of the other online resources that you can order business cards from. They may print them for you and ship them. That's always an option. They may send you the image, and hopefully if they do, it's going to look like this. or if you print it yourself, then you'll want something along these lines. This is called a 10 up, obviously, because there are 10 business cards on this one page. Now, here's a note here. We talked about yesterday, just touched just for a brief second on the weight of the business card quality that I like to use personally. And it's called 80 pound. That doesn't mean that it weighs 80 pound. That designates the thickness of the paper. I don't like skinny, thin paper for business cards that you can roll up in your fingers. Now, you may like them fine, and if you do, kudos. I don't. So I would use an 80 pound, and if I can get away with it, 100 pound. And it's called Cougar White, and it's the matte version, which means it's not shining. Okay, it's not slick, and it's not shining. It's the matte version. Now, you can order this yourself, but also you can just ask your printer. This is a typical, especially if it's white, this is a typical type of paper that printers have. It's called cardstock. Okay, so let's say that you had this piece of paper here, and this was all filled with your business cards. Now, these are not to size, because my window is landscape, and the images that you see are vertical, horizontal and vertical. So you would take it in a regular 8.5 by 11, and it would fill up the entire page if you had this particular layout. And then you would forward that to via email or whatever way, path that you choose. Send it to your printer. Now, you can also do this online, but we're just talking about in real life. If you took it to your printer, you would create it, and then you would take this to them and on a thumb drive or email or whatever, and you would say, I would like to have this, if you like this version, I would like to have this printed on 80 pound Cougar White matte paper. You could also just ask them, can I just go in before you even need to print it? I just like to see your cardstock. I want to feel it. I want to feel the weight of it. I want to feel the texture of it. And I'm a big texture person. And yet, even though that's true, I don't want my business card printed on texturized paper that has those, subtle shifts of the surface level. I have had that done before, and it doesn't turn out well. It does not turn out well. You don't get the true image that you had hoped to get. Right, so what do we do next? Well, there is, you remember we talked here that there are hash marks, that you can't see a white background, but that you can tell there is a white background edging all the way around this. Because obviously these are not butted up, one on top of the other or one beside the other. These are the cutting lines. These little hash marks are the cutting lines. So how do you get that on your own business cards? Well, the finish size for a horizontal business card is 3.5 by 2 inches. 3.5 inches by 2 inches. If it's vertical, it's the opposite. It's 3.5 inches up and down and 2 inches across. But don't take your design or your photograph or your text all the way over to the edge of the paper. We don't want to do that. And this is what I want to show you today. These technical issues, we'll talk about the design next time. But right now, we've got 5 steps in front of us. Do you want a horizontal or a vertical shape? Do you want to make it yourself or have it custom made? Do you want to have a stock image, include a stock image, if any image, or your own photograph? What text should you include? And will you print it or will someone else? Okay, so over the course of these 2 episodes, you will have the answers to these 5 questions. But what we want to do is we want to take the finished size, which represents this green box, represents the finished size. It also is the green outline over here. And you see down here where the green arrow, it says don't spread your content. Don't bring it out to the edges, your content or your images. And I'm going to show you why. Number 1, it might get cut off. But number 2, well, let me go back. The blue is the area, that smaller area. You want to actually design within the framework of, instead of 3.5 by 2 inches, 3.25 by 1 3/4. And that's written up here at the top. If you do that, you'll see the blue arrow down here that represents the blue box, pointing to the blue box. This is going to eliminate bleed. We're going to talk about bleed here in just a moment. When people cut down business cards, whether you do it at your home because you've printed them out or a printer does them, anybody can make a mistake. Even if even if you got all the bells and whistles, you can still make a mistake. If you have your content and your images, everything that makes up your business card, excuse me, pulled in just a little bit, just a quarter of an inch, all the way around the circumference of the business card, then you're not going to have near the likelihood of having one half of your face cut off because the person who cut down the business cards made an oopsie. Or the last digits on the other side, the last digits of your phone number or your contact information, those are not going to be cut off, or as likely to be cut off as if they're in that smaller space. So I really encourage you, if you've not done this before, if you haven't even considered this before, this is a pro tip, and it's really helpful, especially as you get into accustomed to it and it's your normal course of how you work. You will appreciate having this smaller. It's nobody wants a smaller space to work in, but you'll appreciate the benefits of using this smaller, tighter circumference. Where the blue box is, and the blue box represents 3 1/4 inches across, 1 3/4 inches up and down. Whereas the green represents the traditional finished size of a horizontal business card, which is 3 1/2 by 2. I just encourage you to stay within that blue area. All right, so here's this deal I want to tell you about. Let me go. Let me go. Let me go. My people go. Here we go. Want to go to another location and show you this deal. Let's get this out of the way. Let's go here. Here. This is Vistaprint. I don't particularly care for the weight of Vistaprint's paper, but they are online, and they are, like every business, they continue to up their rates, up their game, so that they're getting better and better and better. And one of the ways that they're getting better, now I don't know how long they've had this kit available, but this is fascinating to me because being particular as I am about weights and the texture and the feel and how it looks, and is it shiny, and if it is it too shiny? If it's matte, is it too flat, sort of dead flat? One of the things that's a challenge for people who are trying to run an online business, creating business cards, creating them, designing them, printing them, and then shipping them to the customer, the end user, is when the end user actually gets the finished product, they may not like it because the paper isn't what they had expected or the colors aren't what they had expected. So very wisely, Vistaprint has created a free business card sample kit, and it's going to show you here what's listed. I'm going to have this resource, the URL for this resource, both in today's lesson and also, so it's actually on the video at the end of the video, or near the end, and also listed as one of the free resources. Like I always do when I show you something, I include it after the episode, this episode. I'll include it in the description above the video itself. But this is really interesting. If you're considering using Vistaprint, oh my, order this free business card sample kit so that if you follow through and use them, end up using them, you'll be able to touch and feel before you've ever spent a penny and know this is the weight, this is the color, so forth, to texture or non-texture, the shiny factor or non-shiny factor of what I'm ordering. So you know ahead of time what you can expect on the back end when it comes in, it arrives. So this is a great resource, and I've not seen this before. I don't keep up religiously with Vistaprint because I don't use them, but at the same time, I usually keep an eye on things, and I have not seen this. Okay, so let's go to, I want to show you, we talked about bleed and how we want to keep within the blue box and not the green box so that we use our space wisely and don't have anybody cut off the side of our face. This is an example of a bleed situation. It's just like, you know, cut my finger and I'm bleeding. Printers call this bleed. This is an example of a bleed, a business card that has bleed. Now what? Well, let me show you an example that doesn't. Do you see that how closely, now here these are separated, okay? These are separated just for visual. But do you see how closely these are, there's just a hair's space between all of these cards, right? Now, this is a common bleed. Let me go back for just a second. I don't even have color on my business card, and I don't have a graphic that runs to the edge of the business card. So I'm never going to, as long as I keep within that framework, I'm never going to have a bleed situation where you'll order something and the first thing a printer will ask is, does it bleed? Does your business card bleed? What does that mean? That means that an image runs over the edge of the business card. This one doesn't. Now, stick with me because these are just visuals that we need to compare. So this is a bleed in the sense that it's green, 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 and green. Unless you purchase green paper through your printer or some other, you know, your online source, which you can do. If you're not going to get, typically that's not the way they work though. In this environment here, in this example, they would want to use green ink. That's up to each individual printer. Do you see how even if they cut here, even though that tree comes down to the edge, it doesn't come over the edge. This is a little bit close. A printer might consider this a bleed situation because the end of the tree image comes so close to the edge. But let me show you one that's really close to the edge. Okay? This is a typical bleed situation. Now I'm showing you this because I want you to see this is just one business card. But imagine, you remember that 10 up where we had 2 across and 5 down? That's how our printer is going to print it. It's going to look like this when it goes under the knife, so to speak, of the printers, the people who cut down the business cards. Taking this and making one sheet of business cards into 10 individual business cards, cut down. That process is called, I need you to cut my business cards down. All right, so I want to show you as we're looking at these are examples of why it's so important not to have, ideally, of course you can do whatever you want to, but I suggest keeping within that smaller frame because look at this. You see, they would have to have more space and extra cutting precision to cut these 4. This is just an example. It normally would be 10, but I wanted to bring it up and let you see what it looks like. In order to take these and cut them so that there was no carryover, do you see how this would just flow right into that? And over here we have a totally different image. On this side of the business card, we have a solid green edge. On this side, we have an image of a guy in a tree about to kill himself cutting a tree, right? There needs to be extra precision when these business cards go from a group to individuals because it's not the same on both sides. See, this one is the same on both sides. See, tiny little edge of green on this card, and if they overlap that just a touch and they don't cut that well, these would be the cut marks here, then still say there's nothing to damage the visual, either up or down or side to side. So if they strayed a little bit, they wouldn't have to have such as precision cutting in order to successfully separate a sheet of business cards that look like this into 10 individual business cards. This is where we're talking about bleed. Does it bleed over the edge? And this one does not. This one does. Quite a bit. I mean, it's all the way out to the edge. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I want to show you and help you get educated on what we're talking about and why it's important for you to make your own decision and feel good about it so that you're not surprised whether you're purchasing a tool that I'm suggesting, or in this case, the process of creating a business card. I want to give you information that you don't have so that you can be 1, 2, 3, 4 levels above where you were before we started. And you can represent yourself to the utmost, yourself and Christ and your message, so that you look as professional as you are. And in this case, we're talking exclusively about business cards. So if this would require extra space on the page, which means extra charges typically. So if somebody says you have this, if this was your card and you took it to a printer or called the printer or took it online to have the order fulfilled there, and somebody said, well, does it bleed over? They'll usually say bleed. What they mean is, does the image or the text run over or butt up right against the edge of the card? And if you say yes, then depending upon how they charge for different services, you can expect a little bit of an additional charge, because they're going to have to take their time and be precise as they're making those cuts, horizontal and vertical cuts. Now here's another example that looks like it almost works, but it doesn't. This is a pretty card. This is just an example that I got offline. If we move this and then try to match it up, it's not a match, is it? It's not supposed to be a match. But this is another example of a bleed. It looks very innocent, doesn't it? Because visually it's so close. You've got 3/4 of a tree on this side, and on this side over here, and a tiny, tiny little 1/8 of a tree on here. Could we not just sort of mash them up and make them work? Don't be mashing up stuff on your business cards, okay? We're looking for clarity and professionalism, excellence. So this is another example of a bleed situation where they would have to take, because this does not butt up against, if you butted it up against each other and then cut it, you're going to be missing some of this tree or some of that tree. This is another example of a bleed. Okay, so I've got another resource to show you. You're going to like these. Canva is an oldie but a goodie. Very popular, and rightly so. Rightly so. They now, but used to, you could go into your regular Canva account and you could create the shape and the size and the parameters and the pixels and inches and all that kind of stuff. You could do that yourself, and they've done it so that they've created a little category. So you can create professional business cards in Canva. They give you a little bit of education, just a little bit. Give you some information, things to think about. Now let's look at the create a new business card. Pooh. Okay, give me just a second. I'm going to have to sign in to Canva again. I guess they booted me out because I had spent so much time outside of it. So give me just a second. Have you used Canva before? It's so popular. It's crazy how popular it is. And you know, they've earned their kudos. They've done good work for many years and have earned a good reputation. See? Okay. And as fate would have it, this is, okay, let's go back and share my screen with you. So we're all literally on the same page. Okay. So here is, I'm not going to show you how to design this today. We're talking about the specs, okay, just the specs. This is 3.5 by 2 inches. You can change those if you want to. And then you would just choose something and you would start working on it. You would change the content, the photograph that does or does not go with it. In this case, these have no photographs. This one has one. If you haven't investigated Canva yet, do. I really encourage you to investigate them. They're just drag and drop easy. I don't use it because I don't need it. I have a more sophisticated program that I learned how to use decades ago, way before Canva came on the scene, if I had not had to if I had not been forced by necessity to learn the greater or sophisticated program, I would be glad to use Canva. Just hasn't happened for me that way. So I'm not going to show you how to use Canva. I wanted you to see that you can take things and pull them over and drag and drop and add text and headings and even add your own images, choose your own backgrounds and so forth. Okay. Now I want to show you another one. Look at this. This is relatively new. If you haven't heard of Adobe Spark, it's a really cool program, put out free, put out by Adobe, obviously. They have 2 years ago, no, maybe a year ago, they created videos. They gave us the opportunity to create marketing videos and sent pre-created templates for us to fill in. Well, this isn't about videos. This is about what's brand new, a business card template. Look at this. Made a business card. And we're waiting and we're waiting. All right, so look at this. Again, I'm not going to show you everything you need to know about how to do this. Very user-friendly, no issues, but I do want to just give you a couple of highlights. You can choose a border, whatever that says. I can't even read what that says. My vision impairment's kicking in. We can have this, they're just showing us the same image and the same text in different formats, what it would look like. We don't have to choose this at all. We're not stuck on this image or this font or anything, but it's fun that they're showing us at a glance, boom, 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 boom. We can choose and go all the way down the screen and see how different shapes and sizes and configurations look without having to recreate, taking a lot of time to just recreate everything. We can do it in a click. No, I don't like that one. Go to the next one. Click. Well, maybe I don't know. Let me go back to the first one. Click. And we're there. We don't have to go in there and start, 30 minutes of making adjustments to get back to where we were. I really like this tool. You can change everything about it, just like in Canva, the image itself, the shape, the text, the color, size, the placement of the text, and so forth. Look here, they've got a typo. Address is usually spelled with 2 D's. Everybody makes mistakes. Let's see what else we've got. Just for this show, this episode. Oh, yes. I want to show you the resource list. Okay, here are the free resources that I talked to you about today. Canva, this is Canvas, but it should be possessive. Canva's free business card creator. That's the last one I just showed you, and the URL for it. And I'm going to put all of this information above the video after the episode's over, like I always do under resources mentioned. Adobe, I type that out, resources mentioned, and then I list things. Adobe's Spark's free business card maker, and Vistaprint's, get this, Vistaprint's free business card sample kit. I think that you'll be happy to get it. And even, you might not ever use it, okay, given, that's a given. I understand that. They understand that too. They'd rather you have it on the chance that you're going to need it and do business with them than not have it because you don't yet know today when you're going to need it. And another aspect of this to consider is if you're even considering this at all, you're thinking about a business card, you're thinking about using Vistaprint. And I don't get anything if you use them or if you don't use them, because again, I don't use any of these resources because I have something that's I learned a long, long, long time ago that's graphic design versus drag and drop. And if you have the more sophisticated, great. If you use the more simple, great. The goal is to have a business card that we're proud of, that tells people who we are, what we do, who we do it for, and our contact information, and hopefully a picture, a photograph. That's not always necessary, but I've chosen to do that for many, many years, and I'll tell you why tomorrow. Maybe why tomorrow? The point I was trying to make was, if you are considering that maybe sometime in the next months you may do business with Vistaprint, go ahead and get this free sample kit. Give them time to process it, mail it, ship it to you, and you get it and have time to ponder it before you have to hope for the best. In 30 minutes, you've got to order business cards. Not that that doesn't work, but if you have if you're going in that direction anyway in your mind, then I suggest that you go ahead and order that and give yourself time to make an educated decision. So there we are, the first part of business card design. Who do you know that's trying to market their message online? Perhaps they'd find these trainings, these live trainings, useful too. Please share this video with them. Tomorrow is Wild Card Wednesday, and unless something happens with our special guest, we may have a surprise special guest. That's still in the works. If that doesn't happen, I'm going to finish this training and show you how to design your business card, how to shape it and choose your colors. We're going to pull from the color palette training we had last week and show you how to merge that with your image or your photograph. It all happens right here every weekday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I pray this show helps you become a marketer on a mission. Until tomorrow, I'm Patricia Durgan, the Christian Message Coach, and you know I appreciate you being here. See you then.